Hello, allies. Chapter 7 is about inclusive policies. So, the last three chapters of the book are really centered on how to take this to an organizational level. So, it's important that we lead like allies on an individual level, that we're leading our teams with key allyship strategies. But really, the work that needs to be done, and this is a great time to do kind of the non-exciting DEI work, is more of the systems work. And that's what the balance of the book is dedicated to. I'm finding a lot of my clients are getting really into systems during this weird time where we can't publicly talk about the things that we're doing. Systems work has always been necessary, and actually, I would argue, way more impactful than individual or even teamwork. So, what is systems work? One of the key parts of the book and the research focused on inclusive policies, and many of which you've probably already heard of and know that you should be doing, but maybe you can't get the folks on board with, or they think it's too costly. Most of the policies I recommend in the book are very well researched, have a very high ROI. And so it's pretty easy to dig up data to defend why inclusive policies benefit everyone, not just marginalized groups. And so when we make the workplace better for folks with disabilities or those that are neurodivergent, almost always we find that residual effect affects the dominant group as well. So inclusive policies, if I were to wave a magic wand and wish for certain policies at organizations, the first and foremost is caregiving leave. This isn't just for mothers. This isn't just for women. This is two-thirds of the workforce is actively caregiving. It is a shame that we don't treat people like whole humans in the workplace and honor their primary responsibility is to caretake for others. That is a deeply human, primal thing to be helpful and supportive of others, and to make it difficult for someone to work and do that is a disservice to humanity. And we know when we offer a caregiving leave that people retention goes up, engagement goes up, that we don't lose valuable time and resources from a human leaving because they feel like they have no choice. They feel like it's an either or, either I'm a caregiver or a worker. And it's not, it's a paradox. Both of those things can be true. And so, thinking about your caregiving leave, a minimum of 6 weeks seems very fair if that's what doctors say is the necessary time off to recover from a traditional birth, longer for other types of births. Also, for folks that adopt or folks that are caregiving for their elders or for folks with disabilities or just anybody in their community because they're a good human and want to help. We should have flexible caregiving options for folks. And so there's a variety of resources in the book that you can kind of point to model, but we still have a workforce that, like, only 40% of employees have access to inclusive caregiving policies. And so that is a disservice and one that we should correct here in the United States. So that's one. Another way to do some of the systems work is to really get this embedded into your culture. And what do I mean by that? Tie it to your core values, tie it to the expected behaviors and performance reviews. Make sure that you're debiasing the systems that might hold us back inadvertently. We know bias is human and bias is a part of a lot of our decision making just to save time and our limited resources. We default to decisions that aren't so inclusive. And one of that's around where we go to source talent, where are we recruiting from, hiring bias, what biases do we have in our job descriptions. AI can be a wonderful partner to scrub bias out of job descriptions and outdated long lists of things that aren't really required. So inclusive hiring can be a really great place to focus efforts from a systems perspective. And then the last idea I offer in chapter 7 is around measuring impact. And my friend, Dr. Victoria Mattingly, is an expert at this, and I cite her quite a bit in that part of the book. But you can measure everything from how we're sourcing talent, what does our talent look like? Is it mirroring the communities we hope to serve? Who are we hiring and not hiring? Who are we promoting and not promoting? What do performance reviews look like? What does pay equity look like? All these things aren't really that sexy as far as traditional DEI work goes, but they really, really do hinder the traditional, more external communication type of DEI work. If you're saying one thing and doing another, people quickly find out, yeah, they say that, but that's not what they really mean. I know who gets promoted and it's the loudest voice. I know what it takes to get a good performance review, and I have to completely turn off all my humanity and work a ridiculous amount of hours to get it. Saying one thing and doing another really is pointless. And so people are smart enough to detect, is this really tied to our culture? Meaning these behaviors are supported, reverend, they're reinforced, they're rewarded. And what are we doing to mitigate bias and key parts of the employee experience, like hiring and like promotions and like pay, really getting some data around that because that could be a huge business problem. Despite the anti-DEI pushback as of late, discrimination lawsuits are still very prevalent. Pay equity, reconciliations are very costly. And the cost of exclusion is far more than the risk of doing inclusion work. And that's what business leaders like Costco and Delta Airlines and several business leaders, as they recommit and continue to commit to DEI, because this is who they've always been, and who they will be in the future, and they will be relevant to future consumers and the diversity that will most certainly exist in their marketplaces. So join me for more on allyship and action strategies for people with power. We've got just 2 more episodes.